Hey, what's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Mace. I'm coming to you from Canada, and today's video, how does the EU pass laws? I think this is an interesting topic. A lot of the times I'm sure you'll see, let's just say, a certain voting demographic. If they even hear the word EU, they'll start, you'll see smoke coming out of their ears and they'll say, oh, it's the World Economic Forum and they're trying to control everybody and like the EU. Oh, that's they'll get very perturbed by the EU. And the thing is, they're completely ignorant to how it works, how it operates, the benefits of it. And it's just, they think it's, they want to create a one world government, and all of these conspiracy theories start spewing out. And that's when you realize the reason Donald Trump was elected. Pretty much. People just spewing. Just people spewing stuff. And listen, I'll speak, but I will never celebrate my ignorance. I will attempt and try my best to have the humility and the humble tact with my ignorance and try to learn things, make it a learning moment. So for this video, let's learn how the EU passes laws, how they work, who enforces them, how are they enforced, and what type of laws can they pass, etc., etc. Let's check it out.
Did you know that the European Union has the power to make laws that apply to all of its member states at once? This video will explore why the EU passes legislation, who is involved, and how does the legislative process actually work. The EU passes legislation to ensure that all of its members are held accountable to the same standards. This helps create a level playing field for businesses in different countries.
So I think these are probably only certain types of laws, like in relation to economics or certain things that they want to keep, like it says, a standard across all the member states in the EU.
And ensures that European people enjoy similar rights and freedoms. And by passing laws at the EU level, rather than individual country levels, areas such as trade, environmental protection, and human rights can be addressed much more effectively and at a much larger scale. So who is involved in passing legislation?
So trade, human rights, and economics. And the EU, let's not forget, is an incredible accomplishment to have freedom of movement throughout all these countries and all of the benefits that the citizens are able to enjoy. Like, right, you can travel as long as you got your passport. You can travel within all those countries, work within all those countries, visit all those countries, study within all those countries. It's pretty cool. And as a Canadian, we have a great passport. We can get into, most countries around the world without even a visa. But still, it's a big process to go to another country. Whereas in the EU, you have that freedom.
The EU makes laws through a legislative process that involves three key EU institutions. Firstly, the European Commission, which is the executive branch of the European Union, made up of 27 commissioners and one president. The Commission is responsible for proposing and implementing EU laws and policies. Secondly, there's the European Parliament, which is made up of citizen-elected members from each member state. The Parliament has the power to approve, amend, or reject laws proposed by the Commission.
How many citizen-elected members are there per country? Does it depend on population? Like, how do the constituents...
And thirdly, there's the Council of the EU, which is made up of ministers from each member state, representing the national governments. Like the Parliament, the Council can also approve, amend, and reject laws.
So these ministers are appointed by the head of state of each country, or...?
So how do these institutions work together to pass laws? Well, there are 6 main steps in the EU lawmaking process. The process starts with the European Commission proposing a new law. The right to propose new laws, known as the right of initiative, is exclusive to the European Commission. That said,
And sorry, the Commission was made up of... I need to go back for a second. Just watch the sequence again.
3 key EU institutions. Firstly, the European Commission, which is the executive branch of the European Union, made up of 27 commissioners and one president. The Commission is responsible for proposing
Okay, but how are the commissioners appointed? Are those also by the head of state, or are they voted in? Like,
and implementing EU laws and policies. Secondly, there's a European Parliament, which is made up of citizen-elected members from each member state. The Parliament has the power to approve,
so are the
amend, or reject
commissioners
laws
not
proposed by
elected?
the Commission. And thirdly, there's the Council of the EU, which is made up of ministers from each member state, representing the national governments. Like the Parliament, the Council can also approve, amend, and reject laws.
And so there's 27 member states, is that correct?
So how do these institutions work together to pass laws? Well, there are 6 main steps in the EU lawmaking process. The process starts with the European Commission proposing a new law. The right to propose new laws, known as the right of initiative, is exclusive to the European Commission. That said, other European institutions, member states, and even individual citizens can request that the Commission draft a proposal under special circumstances. The European Commission is not required to pass these proposals, but it is required to give a reason as to why it won't. When the Commission is finished drafting a piece of legislation, it is sent to the European Parliament for a first reading. Here the legislation is reviewed and discussed by the Parliament's 20 committees, who make changes and recommendations where they see fit. The Parliament then votes to accept or reject the legislation. If rejected, it is sent back to the Commission with the suggestions. If accepted, it's passed on to the Council of the European Union. The Council then reviews the proposed legislation and usually makes amendments before also voting on the legislation. If the Council approves the proposal, it is sent back to the European Parliament for a second reading. The Parliament can accept or reject the Council's changes or propose new amendments once again. If differences
It's like any bureaucratic process, right? It's going to take a while.
in the proposed legislation between the European Parliament and the Council persist, a conciliation committee is formed to find a compromise. And then, if a compromise is reached, the proposal is sent back to the European Parliament and to the Council for final approval. If both institutions approve the proposal, it then becomes a law. And once a law is adopted, it is binding on all EU member states and must be implemented into national law.
Okay.
In conclusion, passing legislation in the EU requires cooperation between all member countries and an understanding of national interests and European-wide concerns. However, the process of passing laws within the EU can be difficult and time-consuming due to the diversity of interests among its 27 member states. This channel is all about the EU. So
Interesting. So yeah, like they said at the end, it makes it difficult because you have 27 stakeholders within whatever law that you're discussing, and you also have you have the EU Commission, you have the Council of the EU, and the EU Parliament. I was curious how the Commission was appointed. I don't know if there's any
the
info
executive
card.
branch of the European
What is the European Commission? I don't want to watch a whole nother video, but maybe we'll save that for another time. I could just Google it really quickly. How is the EU Commission elected? Okay, there you go. How the Commission is appointed. Electing the president. Every 5 years, the European Council, made of EU heads of state and government, proposes a candidate for president of the European Commission. The Council of the European Union, in agreement with the adopts a commissioners designate based on suggestions. Okay. Cool. Interesting stuff, man. Yeah, governing, making laws, stuff like that. It's difficult, especially with that many countries involved. But the EU, it's pretty amazing, really, and innovative. I think a lot of benefits. Let's see some negatives. Maybe you guys have some negatives, any of you that live within the EU. Because, it's interesting. The world's a big, wide place. I like where I live. You know, I try to have gratitude lately. Try to be grateful for what we got. And go from there every day. Every day is another day. See you soon. Peace.